Hi friends, and welcome to my fifth Hibernate tutorial. And in today's tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to write a program to use one-to-many using one-to-many relation association. And I'm going to show you the program using the collection object called list. And so let's get started. And for this program I'll be using two tables. One is a city table and the another is a state table. And the state table is going to have and these two tables are going to have one-to-many associations or relationship. Now I'm going to show you how. First, I have a diagram and I want to explain you. I have a state table and I have the cities table. Now in the state table I have the number, the ID, which is of type number, and the name of the state, which the name of the state over here is the primary key. Now the reason why I kept state as a primary key, not ID, because the states are going to be distinctive. They're not going to be states with the same names. And secondly, since the state name is the primary key, I can use it as a foreign key in my city table, where I have ID, which is of type number, and in cities table ID is the primary key, and I have name, which is the name of the city, which is of type variable character 2. And then I have state, which is a foreign key. State is of type variable character 2 too, but this is a foreign key, and the reference of this foreign key is going to be the state is what you call column name in the state table. Now the column name in the state table is the reference or the foreign key of the state in the cities table. So this name column is what we call foreign key for referring to the state column. That means if I want to insert a city and I have a state here, and I'm inserting a city in the state, this state should be existing in my state table. Like for example, I have two states, say I have AP and UP, two states, AP and UP, and I'm inserting a city in another state called MP. Alright, AP, UP, MP, and AP and UP are existing in my state table, but MP is not existing in my state table. But I'm inserting a city in my cities table, a city name and state, which is city which is in state MP, but it won't accept, because since the state is a foreign key, it should exist in my state table. Whatever I want to assign to my state must exist in my states table first, or else the cities table I can insert a record that way. So that's how foreign key works. And then I have IDX, index column. The reason why I'm using index column is because I'm going to use list to actually store collection objects. Now list is a kind of collection which has index. Now we'll understand this when we go through the example, and that's the reason why. Now for example, say I have state Texas, which is 1, and then in the state of Texas I may have many cities. So this is how one-to-many relationship. Alright, one state and I have many cities in the state. Now all these cities are in the state Texas, which is the foreign key to my state table. Alright, now going ahead with the programming, let's start a new project, and I'm going to show you how to use the one-to-many list, one-to-many association, and how to use list. So let's say new file and new, and say Java project, and say next. And then after the Java project, I'm going to name this project as city, state and countries. Alright, and say finish. And then let's open our state and countries project, and let's create a new configuration file and new other, and let's say XML file next, and name this file as states.cfg configuration.xml, and say finish. Now since I'm using the same Oracle database, I'm going to copy my previous configuration file from my previous project. And so I'm opening my previous configuration file, copying all this. I need all of this, copy it and paste it in my new configuration file. And the configuration file consists the DTD, which is available in your Hibernate 3.5.6 distribution final folder, and you have the session factory, and then I have connection to the database. In that I have driver class, URL, dialect, username and password, and then I have setting auto commit to false, and then I'm writing 3 properties for displaying my SQL query which are generated, and then I have mapping file which I have to assign, because since I didn't create a mapping file right now, I'm going to leave this blank. Alright, and this is my states issued .configuration.xml file, and it should be in my source folder, so I'm putting it in my source folder. Now it's in my source folder. Now the next thing I need to create are the Pojo classes. Now first I'm going to show you the classes in my database. So I'm running this, and see, this is my states table, and it has 2 column ID and name. ID is of type number and name is of type variable character of 2 and length 20. And now for the cities table, which I'm going to use, alright, run this, and I have ID, name, state, and name comprises name of the city, state, the name of the state in my state table, and then I have the index column for the index of the list. Now let me check if my tables are empty. Alright, and run this. No data found and states. Alright, and run this, and no data found. So both my tables are empty. Now let's write the next step which I have to do in my program is write the Pojo classes to actually map the tables. So click on source and say new, and say new class, and let's name the class as states. Alright, and finish it. And the states class has to implement serializable, so it implements serializable. Alright, and then alright, so implement serializable, and then I have to specify create the variables. So my variables are private, int, and ID. Alright, and then I have private, and then I have string, name. Alright, 2 variables. And the third thing I'm going to have, even though it's not existing in my table, like I'm showing describe, let's say describe, and say states, and run this query. See, now in my state table I have only ID and name, but in my states I'm going to have number of cities. That's what I call one-to-many relationship. One of my state is going to contain more than one city. Like I said, the state of Texas is going to contain cities like Houston, San Antonio, and Laredo, etc. So my state has many relationships, and for that purpose, for writing my program so I can insert cities and states together, I'm going to have one more data type. Now you'll understand this when I write it. So I'm going to have list. Now list is of collection type, and list is available in java.util package, java.util.list package, and I can import this here, import java.util.list. Alright, and then I have this list over here. Alright, list. Now I have list of cities. Alright, and I'm going to close it. Alright, so I have list of cities. Now this has to be private. Alright, and now list is a collection type, and it actually has index in it, so that's why in our list table we used what do you call index column in our cities table. And this is my list of cities. Now I want to give here a different name, since I'll be having one more project class with the same name as cities, so I don't want to mix up the both class name. You can give here any name, but for now let's say I'll give it a singular one called city, list of city. Alright, and then I have list city, and then I have to have a what do you call empty constructor. So let's say public state and empty constructor, and then let's add setters and getter methods. So let's say source and generate getters and setters, and then select all and say okay. Alright, so this is my states.java class, and this is finished. Now the next project class I need to write is my cities project class. Alright, so click on my default package and say new, and new class, and say cities. Alright, and say finish. Alright, I have my cities project class. Now it has to implement serializable. Alright, and my city has what do you call now let's start writing the data types: private, int, id, and it's also having a name. So say let's check out describe my cities. Alright, run this. I have id, name, state, and what do you call index column. So I have private id, and then I have private state string, private string name, and then I have write the columns, this what do you call this state column and index column, because this state column is my foreign key which I'm only referring. So in this program I don't need to write my index or state column. I don't need to define my state column in my cities what do you call project class. Why? Because I am already specifying my state in my state table, and this is an example of one-to-many relationship. So for that purpose I won't be specifying my state column or my index column. Index column, as you know, it's only for the indexing purpose, so I won't be inserting any index data by myself, and even the state data is not going to be inserted by the cities table, but it will rather be taken by my main table or my state table. So I don't need to specify what do you call or map the state or have the data type for state, since the data type for state is going to be taken from my main table or my state table, and the index values are not going to be inserted by me. They are self-inserted and I don't want to see them. That's why I'm not what do you call specifying my index column in my project class. So this is all I need in my city table. Now the thing remaining is a what do you call empty constructor. So say cities and say alright, and then the next thing I'm going to have is a setter and getter methods. So I have to say source, and then I have to say run as generate getters and setter methods, and say select all and say okay. Alright, so my cities project class is done. Now what I have to do is write my mapping file. I'm gonna write my Hibernate mapping file, and let's start that. Now click on my source folder, say new, other, and say XML, and say next, and then let's name it states dot hbm hibernate mapping dot xml, and say finish. Now I'm opening my previous what do you call mapping file, since I need to copy the DTD. You can take it from the Hibernate what do you call framework folder, but I'm just copying it from my previous DTD. So this is the DTD which I need to copy, and I'm copying it and I'm pasting it in my states Hibernate mapping file. I say Control V and I start writing my mapping file. Alright, so let's start writing our mapping file. First is going to be Hibernate mapping, and in Hibernate mapping I'm going to have a class. Alright, and the class, alright, and the class is going to have a property name, and the name is going to be, class name is states, and table is going to be states2 with the capital. Alright, and then I'm going to have inside my class, I'm going to have first the identifier column. Alright, so ID name equals to name. Alright, now this name is referring to my state's name. Alright, and then I'm having the column is going to be name with caps all, since it's the database, and column name, and the type is going to be string with a small s. And then I have to specify the generator class that's going to be assigned. Alright, and the next thing I'm going to have is my property name, because I didn't specify the ID. Property and name, let's say ID, and the column is going to be ID. Alright, and the type is going to be integer with a small I, and this is done. Now I have to specify, now let me show you my states Pojo class. Alright, and in my states Pojo class right now I have mapped my ID, I have mapped my name. The thing remaining for me to map is a list called city. Now city is like this. Now I have to map the city. So the way we have to map the city is like, I have tab called list to map the list. So list name is going to be the name which I have for my list in my state table. This name, that is city, that's why I used a different name. So this is the city, and it is the name which I specified over here for my list. Alright, so list name is cities, and then I have to specify which table does it map. Now it maps to my cities table in my database, and then alright, I have to specify the key column. Alright, the key column see, now key actually is used to declare the column name of a foreign key. Now as I said you in my example, my name of my state table is the foreign key of the cities table to a column called state. Alright, so in my cities table, the state column is the foreign key. Alright, and I'm going to show you here. I have a column called state, which is having state name, and this column is actually is the foreign key or of this name. Now if you know databases, you will understand this. This is really easy. The state name is the foreign key of my state name state column in my cities table. So the key the key attribute, the key tab is I have to specify my foreign key. Now since I have one-to-many relationship, it is compulsory for a table to have a foreign key, so to have a kind of relationship, whether it's one-to-many or many-to-many. So in this example I'm using one-to-many relationship. Now the relationship is made through foreign key. Now this is how it's done. Alright, I have my one table states and city table here. Now there's a relationship between them. How? There's a one-to-many relationship between them. Why? Because one state can have many cities. Now how it is related? It's related with the name of the state. A city can have the state name, and this state name is going to be in my state table, and one state name can have many cities name. That is, the state over here is going to be repeated. And so this is how I specify this as foreign key. So when I made this table, city table, and declare state as my foreign key, if I insert a new city with the state name not existing in my state table, it won't be existed. It has to be there in my state table, then only I can insert a new city belonging to that state. Alright, if I insert a city which does not city in a state, but that state is not in my state table, I can't insert that record. For me to insert a city, first I have to have the state in my state table, then only I can insert the city for that particular state. So that's how the foreign key works. So I think now let's start going further with our programming. I have key column. Alright, now my key column refers to my foreign key column. Alright, now I can press Control space here and it declares the column name of a foreign key. Now as I showed you, my foreign key is the state state column in my cities table, and it is referred to my name in the state table. Alright, now I have the state column, which is the foreign key and which is referred to my state table name. Alright, so I have to say it's let me see, state, STATE. Alright, I'm writing it in caps because it's not, this belongs to my database column. It's not name. We don't have any name for the key. It's all the database column. Alright, now going further, I have key. I have assigned my key and I have to close it. Alright, and the next thing I have to have is the list index. Now this is compulsory, list index, and this is the reason why I created the fourth column in my cities table, that is the index column. Alright, and now let me let me map that index column, and it's going to be list index. Alright, now base. Now as I said, alright, base, what does base stands for is when I said a list is an indexed collection. Now when I say index collection, the index is going to be made by default. Like if I have a state of Texas and I insert 3 cities in that state, alright, so by default these states are going to get indexed like 0, 1 and 2. Base stands for the number from where they start to be indexed. Like if I have Texas state and I'm inserting first city as Laredo, it will be assigned index 0. The second city I'm inserting is Dallas, it will be assigned state 1, and the third city will be assigned state 2, and so on. So this is index, and list is an indexed collection, so it is compulsory for us to have an index column mapped or specified. So I'm specifying my index column here, and the base is the number how the list starts. Alright, and after I assign the base, I have to specify the column, alright, which is IDX. Alright, the name of my column which I specified for the index, IDX column. Alright, and the list is closed. This is all we need, and now I have to specify the one to many, which is mapped to one to many. Now I have to specify the class which is mapped to one to many, and the class which is mapped to one to many is my cities class. Alright, so it knows which of my class is mapped to one to many, so it can go to that class. See, I didn't specify the city name here. This is only the list. Alright, I'm not specifying any properties from my cities Pojo class in my list. Alright, I'm just specifying that my list name is city, and it's it's going to use the table cities, and it has the key column state. Alright, and the index starts with 0 and the index column is IDX, but I'm not mapping my cities table. all right, in my what do you call list. uh, Here I'm not mapping in my list tabs and mapping any of the columns in my cities table, but I have to specify what kind of mapping exists. That's one to many kind of what you call relation exists, and what class I'm going to use for the cities table, and what from where I'm going to get the data, or from where I can insert them. So I have to specify that one to many class, one to many tab, and specify the class in it, and the class is my cities class, and we are good to go. Now I have to specify my cities what you call Pojo class separately, or I have to map my cities a table, relational table, to my cities Pojo class separately. This is only till now what I did over here was I only specified my what you call first class, the states Pojo class. I have only mapped my state Pojo class, and the list, I have mapped my list over here using this 4 lines. That is, I'm mapping my list name city to table cities, which has a foreign key of state, which I have to specify, and I have to specify my index, and the relationship that exists is one to many, and the class which you have to use is the cities class. Now this is how I what you call mapped my list. Alright, and this is how I declared my states Pojo class. Alright, this is not the what you call the mapping is not done yet. I have still remaining what you call city. I still have cities class remaining that I have to map. So for that I have to say class name, alright, and say cities, alright, and then table is going to be cities again, alright, and then I have to have the identifier column, alright, identifier, alright, ID name, and in cities table I have identifier column as ID with a small ID, and I can check it here. I have ID and name, alright, so I have ID and the column is going to be ID, alright, and then I'm going to have to write the specify the type, alright, type is going to be integer with small I, alright, and then I have to specify the what you call generator class, and that's going to be assigned, alright, and then I'm going to specify the property, alright, which property. I have to specify the property name, and that's name in my cities table, alright, cities class. Alright, so it's going to be name, and then specify the column, alright, and that's going to be name too, and the type is going to be string with a small s, alright, and my mapping is done. This is all I need to do. Alright, now let's save this, and what do I need now is my final class to insert some data. So let's say insert states, insert data, alright, so I have my state, let's what I call a country project, and say new, say class, and say insert record, alright, something insert R, okay, and public static void main, and finish this. Alright, and before I can continue I have to what you call add some external jars. So I'm clicking on my what you call project, say properties, and then I am going to have the Java build path over here, add external jars, and I have all my jars in a single folder, compulsory jars, select all of them and say open, and add one external jar, go in my desktop, and I have to have one external jar here. Alright, so I'm done with my adding of jars. Okay, and then what I need to do next is write my I have public static void main. I have to write the 4 lines of code for starting my program. So let's start it. Configuration is going to be cfg is equal to new configuration object, and cfg dot configure, and cfg dot configure I have to specify my configuration file, which is states dot cfg dot xml. Alright, and in my states dot cfg dot I have to specify my mapping file, which is states dot hbm dot xml. Alright, and in my insert r, this is done. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to have is session factory sf equals to new cfg dot build session factory. Alright, and then I'm going to have a session s. Alright, session s, sorry, session, alright, session, okay, wait, we use classic session. Alright, so it's going to be session x equals to sf dot open session, and then I'm going to have a transaction object tx equals to s dot begin transaction. Alright, and then I have to start writing my main program code. Alright, and alright, so let's create the object first. This is for insertion, so say states st equals to new states. Alright, and then I'm going to set st dot set id is going to be 1. Alright, then I'm going to say st dot set name is going to be the name of the state, so it's going to be Texas. Alright, and then I'm having st dot only 2 columns, and I have to specify the list. Alright, so this is how it's done. I have cities. Alright, and cities, ct equals to new cities. Alright, ct, let's say I want to insert 3 cities in my Texas state, so I say city 1. Alright, now in my city1 object I'm going to specify my first city, so city1 dot, now city1 dot get set id, so where is set id? Alright, this is id is going to be 1. This id is referring to the id in my city table. Alright, not the index column. Alright, and then I have to set city1 dot set name of the city, let's say it's Laredo, and then I'm having, let's insert city number 2, cities. Alright, city2, alright, equals to new, and say new cities. Alright, and then I have same thing, I have to insert city set id is going to be 2 this time, and I have to say cd2 dot set name is going to be let's say Dallas. Alright, and let's insert city number 3, cities. Alright, city3 equals to new. Alright, and then I am going to have city3 dot set id is going to be id is going to be 3. Alright, and ct3 dot set name or set name. Alright, and the name is going to be, let's say some name. Alright, so I have 3 cities which I'm going to insert in my state Texas. Alright, so now how can I insert them? It's going to be like, first I have to create a list object. I say now I'm going to create a list. Alright, now list is of which kind? Like I can create what you call list of objects. Alright, now by objects I mean objects of class. Alright, so I'm going to use my cities.java class and create a list of these what you call cities that are what you call Java class. So I'm going to say cities, alright, with a capital C, and then I have to specify the name. Let's say C. Alright, let's call it C. Alright, that's it. And then say new, or sorry, new, and then I have to specify new array list. Alright, new array list, and I have to specify here cities again, and then here is going to be empty. Alright, so I created my list object, and then for list I have to import java dot what you call util package. Alright, and then simply I have to add my cities object in my list of cities. Alright, that is C. Name of my list is C, and it contains cities, so I have to add my cities object in my list. So how it's done is I have c dot add, alright, c dot add, and I have ct1, alright, then I'm going to have c dot add, and then I'm going to have ct2, and then I'm adding c dot add, alright, and then I'm going to have ct3. So what I did now was I'm having what do you call city object 1, that is ct1, it contains id 1 and name, and I have city object 2 which contains id and name, and I have city object 3 which contains id and name. I have added these three objects into my list of cities. Alright, now these three objects are available in my C, what do you call list object called C, which holds the objects of type cities. Alright, and the object of type cities are C1, C2 and C3. So after setting them up, I'm adding them in my list object. Alright, sorry, and then let's go further into inserting it. Now what I'm going to do is I have to set my list. Alright, I have in my state I have st dot set name, set id, and I'm going to have st dot set city. Alright, and I have to specify the list over here, because if you see my states.java list of types what you call list and the name. Alright, wait, control Z, and then this is this way. Alright, so I'm adding my list what do you call C and set city to C. Alright, so I'm adding my list, which I have in my list I have 3 cities, to my state what do you call state object, and I'm using the set city function and saving the list in that. Alright, and then what I need to do is I need to save. Alright, sorry, s.session.save, and first I have to save the, now it's important for me that I save all the objects. Alright, then only it will update everything. So first I'm saving, alright, s.save what do you call let's say I have to save ct1, alright, and then save s.save, right, and then ct2, alright, and then I have to save s.save ct3. Alright, and then I have to what do you call actually save as what do you call save st. Alright, and this is pretty much finished. And then let's me cut this and paste it about my city method. Alright, and now this is finished. Now let me commit my what do you call transaction. So I say it tx.commit. alright, sorry, and then I say s.close. alright, and let's run this program now. Run as Java application, select all, cancel. Where does the error exist? I have set ID, sorry, it should be set ID. alright, and what's the error here? I missed a semicolon. alright, now run as Java application and save this. Okay, and let's see what error we get. alright, state.cfg.xml not found. State, alright, state, I have to configure it as states. alright, so this is going to have an S over here. Now let me run this again. Run as Java application. Okay, and let me check now if it inserts. Yes, data is inserted. alright, and let us check it out if we want to see it. alright, so I'm going to say select star from cities, run this, and there I have, see, this is my index. Since I what do you call in my, alright, first I'm going to show you. See, I have 1 2 3 ID, and which I inserted, and I have city name Laredo, Dallas, and I have states, and this is my index 0 1 2. Now the reason it started with 0 was because I, in my what do you call mapping file, I specified what do you call the base as 0. that's why in my index column it started with 0. alright, and let me show you my states table now, and I'm going to run this, and I have one ID with the name Texas. alright, now let's say I'm inserting another state, and I'm going to show you what happens. Now the next state is going to be with ID 2, and let's say it's going to be, state name is going to be AP, and let's say some cities, like some city name. alright, and then some city names. alright, and alright, so, and but the ID is going to be like continuation, so it has to be 4, it has to be 5, and it has to be 6. alright, now let me run this program again. Run as Java application. Okay, and then the data is inserted. Yes, and then let me run this. I have my second state, and I have my cities. alright, and let's see what happened to my cities table. See, now my index again for new city started with 0 1 2, and so the index is specific for a particular state. It's a particular list, I must say, list. alright, so AP has a list of HYD, VIJ, and SA, whatever, and so that list started with 0 1 2. That's how index works. This index specified index of the list, and in our what you call state table, we mapped it one to many relation. We specified one state is going to have one list is going to have an index. So for each state we are going to have an index, which is what you call distinctive for each state. Now going on further, I'm going to show you how to actually get the data from our table. So for that, let's what you call let's say I want to insert a new class for selecting, and say new class, let's say select R, and is going to have public static void main, or I say finish, and then is going to have this configuration transaction. Copy this, alright, and paste it in my tab, control V. alright, now alright, so after the transaction is done, I have to actually view my data from my state table and get the number of cities too. So I'm going to say I have states, alright, and in my states I call it st object, and say you know how to use load and get method to actually get the data. So I have states, and it's all plural, and then I have s dot s, it's going to be what you call session dot get object, get, I'm not using load, I'm using get, and then I have state dot class. Alright, and then I'm going to have new what do you call what now this specifies what I'm going to search. In our what do you call second tutorial, I showed you I searched an ID, that is ID of record number 10. Now I'm going to search string, and which is going to have the state of Texas, and then this is finished. Now it will load my what do you call record where my state name is Texas. Alright, and then the next thing I'm going to have over here is alright, system dot out dot println. Alright, first I have to load my list. Alright, so for loading the list I have to say list. Alright, create an object, and then list is going to be of type cities. Alright, and it's going to hold object of cities, and let's call it city. Alright, and new, and let's say it's going to be st dot get, and it's going to be get cities, it's going to get a list of cities. Alright, now let's say for alright cities, that's the class object, alright, c or anything equals to city. Alright, and that is until it's there, until it's existing, I want to print it out. Alright, print the cities out. So I'm going to say system dot out dot print ln. Alright, print ln, and what I'm going to print is I'm going to print c dot, now cities as you can see is my city object. Alright, sorry, this is not equal, it should be like this. Alright, and c dot I have to say what do you call get name. Alright, name of the city. Alright, and then I have to close my session. Alright, I have to close my session here as dot close. Alright, and this is done. Now let's run this, run as Java application, and let's see what we get. Errors exist, cancel. What are the error existing? I have to specify util import list.util, and there's what do you call it, has to be class. Alright, and then control S again, and all our errors are gone, and run this out, run as Java application, and see if we get the values or city names. Exception in thread name. Oh, why did we get an exception? Alright, let me check. It's Texas string, and the string is right, it's okay, it should work. And then I have list cities, and I'm getting my city. I have session factory configuration, configure session factory, session sf.open session transaction. So I have city C, and that's actually specifying to my, it should work. Let me try again. I have open bracket brace here, open close brace here. Alright, run as Java application. Alright, let me check my stage table. Run, and I have a capital T over there, so let me go to my insert, and let's insert a capital T here and check it out. Alright, control S and run as Java application. Alright, there I got the what do you call data. The problem was this was having a small t over here, and in my database where I actually inserted there was a capital T. Alright, so that was a problem, and records are case sensitive. Column names and table names are not. So Texas with a capital T, and where I'll show you, I'll run this again and show you what I got. See, it's running perfectly, and there you have the 3 city name, Laredo, Dallas and San Antonio, which I can show you if I show you my cities table. Alright, and run this. I have, for Texas, I have 3 cities, and the name of the cities are. Alright, now the next concept I'm going to show you, I have only 10 minutes remaining. Alright, and that's going to be something called lazy. Alright, so in my mapping file I have cities table, and I'm going to specify this as lazy. Alright, I'm going to say Cascade is none. Alright, and then I'm going to say lazy is true. When I say lazy is true, what happens is when I'm running the select program, alright, when I get the state object, so when I get the state table record, it does not get the list of the cities at the time when I create my state object. It only gets it when I actually call this. When I say lazy this false, this is what happens. Alright, so lazy is true. Sorry, when I say lazy is true, it does not call the methods when I make the state object, but rather when I call the list name. Alright, so how I'm going to show that is I'm going to insert a print statement over here. I say system, alright, dot out dot println. Alright, and I'm going to say after here. Alright, so this is 1. Alright, and then I am now in my mapping file I said lazy is true. So what is going to happen is when I call the state object, okay, my list of cities are not going to get loaded in it. The list of cities will only get loaded when this is called, get name is called. Until then the list of the cities are not loaded. Now how I'm going to show that. Run as Java application. I say okay, and check it out. See, first what is loaded when I created my state object is only the name of my states and their IDs. The list is only loaded after, alright, after I called the get method, that is here. Alright, the get city method, and when I actually loaded them. But I'm going to show you again, when I say this is false, everything is loaded at the same time. See, now just now in the first scenario what I showed you was first only states were loaded, then after here when we actually called this list, when we actually wanted the city name, then only the cities were loaded, and this was in middle. Alright, first we loaded the states, and then we had after this one was there, and then this list was loaded. But now what is going to happen is everything is going to get loaded first at the first step itself, because our lazy is false. So run as Java application, and I'm going to show you. Okay, see, I have my states loaded at the first step and even my city loaded, and then I have after here, and then I'm displaying the cities. Alright, so what happening here is the loading part. I'm not telling you about the displaying part. The loading part, when the query is generated and the objects are record are actually loaded, that part is what I'm talking about over here. Alright, I have Hibernate, and this is the query, and this is the query, and this is generated at the same time when I'm creating my state object. How do I know that? Is I have, when I created my state object, I'm printing a query after that, that's after here, and after that I'm creating my list of city. Alright, but my list of city is also loaded before after after here process. So see here, loading my states, loading my cities. Alright, then after here is done. That which means that when I am creating my state object, my cities are getting loaded. Alright, even though I don't need them. Maybe I don't need them in this program, I do, but even though I don't need them, they're getting loaded. So that's what happened when we say lazy is false. So it is actually a good habit to actually assign lazy to be true, because if we have large number of columns, it won't actually load them until we actually need them. So let's say lazy is true, and let me show you again what actually happened. So I say run as Java application, okay, and see our console. See, first my states are loaded, then the system the statement which I printed, alright, and then when I actually wanted to load the city objects, alright, and created the city list, then only my city was loaded and this query was generated. So this is how the lazy works. And how we assign is it simply in my list name as property, there's a property called lazy, and simply you can set it to true or false. Well, it's a good practice to set it to true, because you may have tables with large amount of columns and you don't want it to be loaded unless it is actually required. So this is how the lazy works, and that's all for today's tutorial. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and thank you.